Hi, I'm Renee and I'm your Progear bike specialist here to help you assemble your new retro bike. Let's get started. Okay, so first let's start by opening your box. Cutting off the straps just using either scissors or Stanley knife, something like that. Now we remove the bike out of the box. As you can see, it comes in one piece and already 80% assembled. Okay, so once all the packaging is removed from your bike, this is what it should look like. So please make sure to read through your manual to ensure that you have all the parts that you need. Okay, so for ease of assembly, we do recommend using a work stand. However, if you do not have access to one, the same steps can be followed on the ground. These are the tools that you'll need to assemble your retro bike. A 5mm Allen key, 6mm Allen key, Phillips head screwdriver, two 15mm spanners, one 10mm spanner, an 8mm spanner, and a bicycle pump. Okay, so first things first, we'll get started by installing the mudguard. What we'll need to do to give ourselves some space is unclip your V-brake, and then we will pull the bolts and nuts out. From each side. And get started with assembly. So just maneuver through your brakes, place this at the front, get your main bolt, get that same washer that you pulled out, put that in place, and the same nuts. So you want to leave it kind of loose because we're going to need to maneuver it a bit to put these bottom bolts in. Okay, so now we will install the front wheel. First off, we're going to ensure that the V-brake is unclipped and open. And then you really want to make sure that the rotational arrow on the sidewall of your tire is pointed forward in the direction of rotation. Just ensure that your nut is loosened out as far as it can go without coming off, and then also that these tabs are on the outside of the fork. And we'll just hand tighten for now. So now we'll use the two 15mm spanners to evenly tighten the nuts and ensure a central alignment of the front wheel with the fork. Now that the wheel is evenly tightened and central, we can install the V-brake, making sure that the cable guide is sitting flush with the mount. So the next step will be to install the handlebars, but before we do that, we have to ensure that the forks are facing in the right direction. And the way you can tell that is by the actual bend of the fork. The bottom should be moving forward, and then also that the V-brake should be mounted on the front of the fork. Now, ensuring that your cables are not twisted and that your stem is loosened off, we can insert it past the minimum insertion line. Using a 6mm Allen key, we can tighten down the stem firmly, but not completely, as we will be making final adjustments later. Next step will be to insert the saddle, but first, we will apply a little bit of grease in the seat tube. And then insert past the minimum insertion line. And using a 5mm Allen key, tighten your bolt. Using two 15mm spanners, we will loosen off the saddle bolts to level off the saddle to make it more comfortable to ride. Now, next step will be to inflate the tire, but before we do that, we just need to ensure that we don't go past the recommended tire pressure that you'll be able to find on the sidewall. Now we can inflate the tire and keeping an eye on the gauge, ensuring that we don't go past the maximum tire pressure. First step will be to check that the brake pad is running centered and parallel to the rim. Next step will be to loosen the pinch bolt to adjust the brake cable. Now we'll adjust the brake cable and tighten the pinch bolt, ensuring that the brake pads are 2 to 3 mil from the rim. If your brakes are leaning to one side and it's difficult to get an even clearance on both sides of the rim, then you need to adjust the screw on the side of each arm until even. Tightening the screw will pull the arm in. Now both brake arms should move in evenly. Next step will be to install pedals, ensuring that the right pedal, which says R, goes into the right crank arm, and the left pedal, says L, goes into the left side crank arm. First, we'll apply a little grease to the right pedal to ensure that it doesn't seize down the track. We will tighten clockwise or towards the front of the bike with our hands, and then use our 15 mil spanner to finish off tightening. Now we're installing the left pedal, and it's important to note that the left crank arm is reverse thread. So you'll still be tightening to the front of the bike, but it's actually going left. I'm using my hand until I get hand tight, and then I pull out my 15 mil spanner again to finish the job. Now our next step will be to ensure that the rear derailleur is working correctly, and how we do that is by shifting down into our smallest cog using our grip shift, and we want to shift up the cassette. So we'll get started by turning our cranks. We will start shifting. Now, if you're having an issue shifting up the cassette, that means that you don't have enough tension. So you need to add some by using this barrel adjuster right here. So we'll continue up. So that worked well. We'll now come back down the cassette. And the opposite applies, that if it's hard to come back down the cassette, you just need to back off some of that tension using the barrel adjuster. Keep on going down. And now for our final adjustments, we need to make sure that the handlebars are nice and straight. Spot eyeing it from the top, or you can come in front. Get those bars nice and straight. Using a 6 mil Allen key, just tighten that down. Nice and snug. Then we want to go to our faceplate bolt, which is right underneath here, and just ensure that that is tightened down. Nice and straight. All brakes are good and aligned. Make sure that your saddle is nice and straight and level, and that should do it. Okay, so our next step will be to install our basket mount. What we have to do is take off these axle bolts, and slide these over, ensuring that your tabs are still in the hole, and do them up. Just hand tight, because we'll need to do some more adjustments. And now we will attach this wire basket using the bolts, nuts, and washer that was supplied. With my hand. Now using the Phillips head screwdriver, we will tighten down these bolts. Not tightening too much though, because we'll still need to do a bit of adjusting. Put that one down. Still making sure that the basket can move kind of freely. So next we just need to install this bracket here on to the basket mount by screwing this bolt in through the top of the basket. And last but not least, place your wicker basket into the wire basket. Job done. Now you've assembled your Progear retro bike, and get out there and have some fun.